Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our October the 2nd regular Huntersville Town Board meeting. I appreciate everyone in attendance this evening. If you wouldn't mind making sure you take out your cell phones and put them on vibrate or turn them off, we would, everyone up here will do the same, and we greatly appreciate that. That allows us to move quickly through the items on our agenda this evening. So I have now called the meeting to order, and we are going to move into a moment of silence. So please join us. Thank you. Now if you'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so we are now going to move into staff questions. Does staff have any questions this evening? Commissioner Kidwell.
I have a question for staff. I'm sure staff has questions too. First of all, I would like to thank our attorney Sloop. I emailed her a question early this morning. I told her I was going to be asking this. She responded back, and it's just a clarification of process when it comes to rezonings. And I asked her, we have a couple of future agenda items coming up. One's the Dearness Gardens and the Golden Cow rezoning request. I said, will those require a supermajority or 4 yes votes to pass? So I just want to let you know, she answered me back, but I preempted this. I wanted this to be on public record so everybody understood. So like last meeting, we were kind of caught off guard. 2 of us were, just to kind of set the record straight. Thank you.
Ms. Sloop?
Yes, so for clarification, voting is governed by subsection 75 of 160A of the general statutes, and it requires for anything that's having the effect of an ordinance, which a rezoning would have the effect of creating an ordinance, to have a majority of those members of the board not excused from voting. So if you are merely absent, you are not excused from voting. You are excused from voting if you're accused due to a conflict of interest. So if you have, for example, 1 board member that's recused, that leaves you with 5 unexcused members. So if all 5 are participating, you would need 4 out of 5. So if that makes sense. Now, on the other hand, if you, for example, had, let's say, 2 board members absent but not excused from voting, you would still require 4 out of 6 not excused from voting to pass.
Any other questions for staff at this point? I do. Mr. Roberts or Ms. Sloop, maybe one of you can help me. I've had several phone calls this morning or today regarding how committees are created. Specifically the 150th Committee, as well as the Affordable Housing Task Force. And I'd love for staff to be able to answer that if possible. Ms. Sloop?
Yes, so for the 150th Committee, the town board directed me to create rules of procedure or bylaws for that committee that included a specific composition of membership. So members from diverse backgrounds, and then the board as a whole appointed the members to the 150th Committee.
Okay.
And then as to the mayoral task force, again, the board gave me direction on the composition that they wanted to see included in the task force. The board voted to move forward with the task force, and then the mayor and mayor pro tem worked to make the appointments to that task force.
Thank you. So I hope that answers the questions in regards to how those committees were crafted from a staff perspective. Are there any other questions for staff at this time? Okay. Seeing none, we now move into public comments, requests, or presentations. The item 6A is Mecklenburg County Homes Program, helping out Mecklenburg's homeowners with economic support. And this is Jamie Nagel, from the program supervisor from Mecklenburg County. Good evening. Thank you so very much for joining us.
I'm going to use your fancy clicker. Hopefully. Which button do I press? All right, perfect. So, good evening. Thank you for having me. My name is Jamie Nagel. I'm a Mecklenburg County employee and supervisor of the Homes Program, and incidentally enough, a Huntersville resident. I live right down the street at Gilead and McCoy, so thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. So I just wanted to explain a little bit about the Homes Program, which is a tax incentive program for homeowners. So it stands for Helping Out Mecklenburg Homeowners with Economic Support. It serves as an ally for Mecklenburg County homeowners who are struggling with the rising cost of owning a home. And if you are a town resident in Huntersville, Davidson, Cornelius, or our neighbors to the south, Pineville, Matthews, or Mint Hill, you are eligible for a grant of up to $426. And if you lived in city, you may have been eligible for additional funding. So the property must be located within Mecklenburg County, North Carolina, and it must be your legal primary residence at the time of application. Also, at the time of application, you must have lived in the property for at least 3 years, as verified by legal documentation. So we have a couple of ways that we verify that information that all are public record. The grant recipient's name must be on the recorded deed or title. We do know that some property owners transfer ownership to their children or another relative, and we do use verification to verify that. So that way, if your name was not on the property initially, but we can verify that you've been there for 3 years, we can honor that grant assistance. And usually that's done through a life estate, so that way the person may participate in the program. So the income limits are set by 80% of AMI through HUD, which is Housing, Urban, and Development. So for a one-person household, we look at your 2022 income, and that would be $55,850, all the way up to $105,300 for an 8-person household. So some of the methods that we use to verify are your tax return from 2022 or your W-2 from 2022. We have residents state that they have no income from 2022, so we do take statement if you do report 0 income for the 2022 year. So our application period is live right now. It started July 1st. So we have a variety of ways that we take applications. So that's through the Department of Community Resources, which is where I'm located at 3205 Freedom Drive, Building A. Not to be confused with Building D, which is where you can pay your property tax. I did locate somebody in that building this week to start taking applications so that we don't lose people in that shuffle from Building D to Building A, because it's a large complex if you've ever been there. You can submit a paper application. You can apply online. You can apply with our QR code. And one of the things that I wanted to mention that might disqualify you from the program is if you're receiving an exemption in another category. So the state of North Carolina has other exemption programs. For instance, if you are a veteran, you might be receiving under that category. If you are receiving the homestead exclusion, which is you are age 65 or older and meet a certain income criteria, present use value, which is typically related to farm use value, but those are the 3 programs. If you're already receiving in those categories, you cannot receive our funding, which is just through Mecklenburg County local funding. So, do I have any questions? That was it.
All right, seeing none. I would like to say thank you so very much for coming and presenting this.
you.
This is a great program, and we need to make sure that we're getting this information out to our residents.
Thank you. Yes, we have lots of money to help people, so please spread the word. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
So I have 2 proclamations this evening. I'll go down. Commissioner Kovacs, would you join me? Thank you. Whereas dysautonomia is a group of medical conditions that result in a malfunction of the automatic nervous system, which is responsible for automatic bodily functions such as respiration, heart rate, blood pressure, digestion, temperature control, and more. And whereas dysautonomia impacts over 70 million people around the world and includes conditions such as diabetic autonomic neuropathy, neurogenic orthostatic hypertension, and posterior orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. And whereas dysautonomia impacts people of any age, gender, race, or background, including many individuals living in Huntersville. And whereas dysautonomia can be very disabling, and this disability can result in social isolation, stress on the families of those impacted, and financial hardship. And whereas some forms of dysautonomia can result in death, causing tremendous pain and suffering for those impacted and their loved ones. And whereas increased awareness about dysautonomia will help patients get diagnosed and treated earlier, save lives, and foster support for individuals and families coping with dysautonomia in our community. And whereas Dysautonomia International, which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that advocates on behalf of patients living with dysautonomia, encourages communities to celebrate Dysautonomia Awareness Month each October around the world. And whereas we seek to recognize the contributions of medical professionals, patients, and family members who are working to educate our citizenry about dysautonomia in Huntersville. Now, therefore, I, Melinda Bales, Mayor of Huntersville, do hereby proclaim the month of October Dysautonomia Awareness Month in Huntersville, North Carolina. And I'm signing that now. And Commissioner Kovacs, if you would like to talk a little bit for a moment as I am handing this proclamation to you. You're more than welcome, please.
So I brought this to the town. I'm a volunteer with Dysautonomia International because I am a person with dysautonomia. Awareness is important because the average it takes is 7 years for somebody to be diagnosed, but generally your symptoms are debilitating and completely stop your life. So in that 7 years, you have no way to continue your everyday lives, but you're trying to figure out how to get some help. One of the biggest long-term effects of COVID has actually been impacts of dysautonomia. And so getting awareness out there so people know that they're not crazy, that there is a name for what they have, and helping people seek help so that way they can go back to their regular lives is important. So thank you.
Thank you. And I have one more proclamation for this evening. Whereas each year the United States observes National Hispanic Heritage Month by celebrating the culture, heritage, and countless contributions of those whose ancestors were indigenous to North America, including Mexico, as well as those who came from Central America, South America, Spain, and the Caribbean. And whereas what began in 1968 as Hispanic Heritage Week under President Johnson was expanded by President Reagan in 1988 to cover a 30-day period starting on September the 15th and ending on October 15th. And whereas the date September 15th is significant because it is the anniversary of independence for the Latin American countries of Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. Additionally, Mexico and Chile celebrate their Independence Days on September the 16th and September the 18th, respectively. And whereas this year's theme, Latinos, Driving Prosperity, Power, and Progress in America, encourages us to focus on the themes of prosperity, power, and progress, recognizing the significant strides of Hispanics in the economic, political, and social growth of the United States. And whereas the Hispanic population of the United States is now 63.7 million, constituting 19.1% of the total population, and whereas in the town of Huntersville, the Hispanic population represents a wide range of nationalities and backgrounds, all of whom make a positive contribution to educational, nonprofit, government, and business sectors, which reflect the remarkable diversity of the American people. And whereas Hispanic Heritage Month is an incredible opportunity to speak with one voice, acknowledging the crucial role that Hispanics play in shaping the future of our country and the world, and to celebrate and recognize Latinos as employers, employees, suppliers, consumers, and community. Hispanics need to be seen, heard, and valued, and are more likely to engage with individuals or organizations that actively invest in and celebrate their contributions to America, which are driving prosperity, power, and progress. Now therefore I, Melinda Bales, Mayor of Huntersville, do hereby proclaim September the 15th through October the 15th of 2023 as Hispanic Heritage Month in Huntersville, North Carolina. Thank you. So we have a few folks who have signed up to speak under public comment. The first one is Bob Sarouche? Sarouche? Did it? Yes. If you'll please come right on up. So I have two sheets, one for public comment and one for public hearing. Sir, did you only want to speak during the public hearing? The public hearing. Okay, great. So the next person who has signed up for public comment would be Eric Dietrich. As you come to the podium here, you have 3 minutes. And if you'll please state your name and address for the record.
Eric Dietrich, 5835 Deer Meadows Lane in Huntersville here. And I apologize, I wasn't able to make it to any of the previous sessions or the upcoming town hall because I've got business travel that is constantly taking me out of town. But, I'm here today regarding opposition to rezoning case 2307 Epcon Beatties Ford Road. The rezoning and proposed community would involve 118 homes with an entrance approximately 200 yards south of the intersection of Gilead and Beatties Ford. The area is already a traffic backlog several times per day, stretching over a half a mile long down Beatties Ford and Gilead from 73. The Gilead-Beatties Ford intersection has already been identified as an area in need of traffic improvement. I think that might even be a topic for later today or tonight. I routinely see traffic blocking the drive to the fire station, a critical service to the western side of town. During construction, the area would be subject to heavy equipment, utility operations, contractor vehicles, which would eventually lead to 118 plus passenger vehicles, in addition to refuse and recycling, landscape and maintenance vehicles, delivery vehicles, UPS, FedEx, Amazon, far beyond the traffic impact that Epcon indicates in their information. Just a few years ago, the city approved a version of the community, or a vision of the community that continued the zoning in the area of question as rural conservation. LU1, LU3, LU7, LU11 do not support the proposal. LU31 states, there is constant pressure to rezone to a higher density districts on the edge of the town. Growth management was the #1 priority for survey responses. There needs to be a concerted effort to uphold previous policy decisions to limit density and increase open space preservations in more underdeveloped areas on the outside of town core. The ask for a transitional residential is not but another transitional residential or residential. It stands out by itself and basically opens a Pandora's box or a wormhole to set bad precedents for future rezoning opportunities. Epcon has stated that exceptions and deviations to current building codes would also be required for their proposal, including buffer relief, entry medians, cul-de-sac length, driveway width, and design around their wet pond. It's more than just rezoning. It's a plan that does not fit with existing building codes in addition to community vision and plans. Affordable housing, I think I just heard that here tonight. Declared starting price of $600,000 for homes in there per Epcon. Community would further swing the balance against affordable housing within this community. At the last town hall meeting, several people came forward in support of Epcon, indicating they made nice communities. Unfortunately, not one of them was a Huntersville resident. 2 were from Matthews, 1 from Concord, and 1 with a realtor with a vested interest. Unfortunately, Epcon as a developer is not really what's at debate here. What's at debate is whether or not the community should put high-density housing in that area. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, sir. The next person who signed up to speak is, I believe it's Sadiq Singleton. Good evening, sir. You have 3 minutes.
ma'am.
If you'll state your name and address for the record.
Sadiq Singleton, 11807 Midnight Way, that's in Huntersville. And I want to address a traffic issue. Me and Chief Graham have had a couple of conversations. We have roundabouts in our community, and I would say about 80 to 85%, if not higher, of the people don't use those roundabouts properly. And what I'm trying to do is prevent an accident from happening by getting more presence out in the community. You know, we have a Facebook group, and I think if you stop one person or two people at your discretion, maybe give them a warning, it would get around in the neighborhood to use the roundabouts properly. I was persistent in getting traffic signs or traffic directions on roundabouts. So it's a stickler with me because my granddaughter got hit by a car that was parked, up north we say left wheel of the curb. So I'm particular about traffic, and that's all I want to say.
Thank you, sir. The next person who signed up to speak is Crystal Camp. Ms. Camp, as you come, you have 3 minutes, and if you'll state your name and address for the record.
Okay, thank you. My name is Crystal Camp. I live at 11800 Swansboro Lane in Huntersville. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you guys tonight. I'm here tonight about the traffic speed hump. I don't know what you call it, petition. Okay, sorry, that we have, that's been ongoing. I wanted to just come and speak again tonight to again ask for your vote tonight to please, it's to allow the 3 speed humps is what we would prefer as in our community. The reason is the road is about 1,200 in length, 1,200 feet. And just the way you'll see tonight when Laura does her presentation, that the 3 speed humps just makes more sense, the way the road is laid out. There's 2 corresponding streets. Swansboro is a cul-de-sac, and then there's 2 corresponding streets. So just the way the layout presents, it would be better, in my opinion, for the 3. So I ask that you please consider that, even though that may not be the recommendation. Again, I just, with no sidewalks in the neighborhood, you know, for the kids to play, to be out on your bikes is just not currently safe. So we definitely do need the speed humps. If we have to, you know, we would really like 3. So that's just the request, and I appreciate your time and listening. Thanks.
Thank you. And the last person who has signed up to speak is Jeff Snye. Mr. Snye, you have 3 minutes, and if you'll state your name and address for the record.
See it, thank you. Hi, Jeff Snye, 13945 Old Vermillion here in Huntersville. Madam Mayor, Commissioners, I'm here tonight simply as a Huntersville citizen. As we've all noticed, it is once again sign season. So that means a local election is near. So to all the candidates up on the dais tonight and in the audience and watching from home, I'd like to deliver a message of encouragement to you. I encourage you to make Huntersville your priority. Instead of measuring signs and researching right-of-ways, I encourage you to use that time to earn some votes. Instead of courting Charlotte residents, I encourage you to court some residents from here in the Ville. If you are excited about a mailer that says MEC looks good in blue, I would encourage you to double check which race you've actually entered, because this is Huntersville. If you want your party in red to put out a big mailer as well, I would encourage you to check the Huntersville website, because our dominant color is green. If you want to buddy up with some naysayers or some red sign people, some green sign people, or the non-transparent transparency people, then I would encourage you to weed through the noise and find the actual message that they have. If this is one you can truly embrace as a representative of Huntersville, then run with it. If it's not, I would encourage you to seek a different audience. I would encourage you to do what's right when you think no one is looking. I'll give a great example. I saw someone pointing out signs for candidates Saturday morning. They were pointing out signs of one particular party in this nonpartisan race, but they noticed a sign from someone in the other party was laying on the ground. They took the time to reinsert that sign. I don't know who that person was. I thought that was a nice touch. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm looking forward to a clean, respectful race where you earn as many votes as you possibly can, but do it the right way. In the meantime, I will be encouraged by the thought that I won't have to check any of you again. Thank you.
Sir. So that is all of the public comments this evening. Are there any agenda changes? Seeing none, is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
Motion to adopt the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Kidwell. All those in, well, I guess, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried, and we will, the agenda has been adopted. We'll now move to consent.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Commissioner Phillips. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Commissioner Kovacs. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, the consent agenda is passed. We will now move to the public hearing. This is item 9A. Conduct public hearing to receive input on proposed traffic calming measures on Cambridge Grove Drive between Glencrest Drive and NC 73. Good evening. How are you, Ms. Mastro Francesco?
I'm well, thank you, Mayor, Commissioners, Mr. Roberts. So I'm here to talk about go through the public hearing process. So we're going to go over the location of this street, the process that was carried out to conduct the traffic calming. I'll give you some of the results, and then our proposed solutions. So we are at Town Hall, which is the bottom right corner of this image. Cambridge Grove is off of 73 between 115 and 21. So if we zoom in, you'll see the subdivision is also called Cambridge Grove. It's about 950 linear feet. It's the red line. That's the area that we're talking about today. It's from Sanford to a four-way stop at Glencrest. I'd like you to notice there are no homes on the east side, which is the right side. That's owned by the HOA. On the west side, the left side, you'll see two cul-de-sacs with a total of around 22 residents. All right, so I would like to bring to your attention the existing speed humps as traffic calming measures in this area. Some in the Cambridge Grove neighborhood, which is outlined in blue, and the little ovals are my indication of a speed hump. So they already have some in there, and then we have some in the surrounding neighborhoods, which is Hampton Ridge HOA 1 and 2, and then also Knoxwood Drive is up there as well. So let's look at a street view. So it's a fairly wide section. It's actually 33 feet pavement to pavement, and then there's two curb gutter curbs, 2-foot curbs on either side. If you've noticed, there's no driveways. This is just a straight through street. It has a little bit of a curve in it, but it's important to note that there's no driveways right here. So we conducted our first study in November of last year. And the first collection stated that the 85th percentile of speeders were going 32 miles per hour, which exceeds the threshold per the policy of 31 miles per hour. So after that, the neighborhood itself conducts their neighborhood awareness campaign, and returns them to the town for review and acceptance, which has been completed by the HOA. Then we move into type 1 implementation, which means I give the police the data that I've collected, and they can then come out to monitor at the appropriate times. And after that happens, we put up the temporary radar feedback signs, which helps people driving. It starts to flash so you know how fast you're actually going, because you could not realize how fast you're going. So then we revisit this again, and we do a second collection of the speeds. again, the 85th percentile, it really didn't change. It was still at 32 miles per hour. That means we have to move into physical calming measures. So our staff came up with several items and submitted it to the HOA to review. They have their own traffic subcommittee, and they have sent me a list of their comments, which I'd like to enter into the record, and the clerk has a copy of that. And then now we are here for our public hearing. So let's go through the options. So we'll start with simple speed hump. So this is total 950 linear feet. So a simple speed hump would be right in the middle. We try not to space them out any further than 500 feet. So this would be a valid idea. Another one would be to put 2 if you felt that this was necessary. And I put them slightly past the 2 intersections because you can't really put one in the middle of an intersection. Next option is mini traffic circles, which are newer in our town, and we're working out some kinks there. But for this one, if I zoom in and offset the mini traffic circle, I would not need to get any more right-of-way. What you're looking at is the traffic circle in the middle, which is 16 feet in diameter, but then we would add what's called a chicane to try to tighten in the road so that a vehicle has to meander through, and you have to slow down to do this. And this is how we could control the speeds there. Now, this is typically where I stop, and that's all I show you. Those are all we really have. But this roadway is really wide, so I have more to show you. So here's another option. When I showed you the original picture, it was just one big piece of asphalt. So what if we put 2 lanes and showed some striping down the middle? It has got a little bit of a curve, so this would help keep vehicles to their side of the road. And then the markings would not happen at the intersection to allow the vehicles to make their lefts in and out. This would end up with 16-foot long, 16-foot wide lanes, which is rather large. So let's go a little bit further. And I'm sorry. I have an example. I was told that Stratton Farm Road in the Cedarfield neighborhood had an issue with speeding, and they implemented this, I'm not sure how many years ago, but they found that this was very helpful in their community. So then let's go a little bit further to stripe out 3 lanes. And then we would have 3 11-foot markings. And again, we would stop them short of the 2 cul-de-sac intersections. And they would really just be for the left-hand turns coming in. But that would narrow your lanes again, and that it's also makes you feel a little more constrained. You would feel like you need to drive a little slower. This would be an example. Farrelltown Parkway, which is the Walden neighborhood off of Huntingtonville Concord, has this exact striping that widens out to the 3 lanes. So it looks similar to this. So here's another idea. It's our 6th alternate. It's still in the lines of the 3 lanes, but the middle lane, the center, would make it a median, a concrete median. This would then make 2 12-foot lanes. So the lanes would be a little bit bigger if anyone had concerns for larger vehicles traveling through. But the center could be an island, or we would just recommend just a concrete pavement, concrete median. Again, cut short on either side so the vehicles can get in. Now, the last tool in our toolbox that we could use here are raised intersections. It's a cross between a speed hump and a speed table, and its table is flat. So let me try to zoom in a little bit here. So this would go up a little bit, and then you'd be flat through the whole intersection, and then you'd come back down. And it would be in all directions of the intersection. It's very large. Here are some images. On the left, you see a 4-way intersection, and it's slightly raised. And on the right, you see how wide it could go. So it'd be very large, which then also increases in costs for that one. So those would be our examples, our proposals. I did speak with both chiefs from fire and police. Same as my last presentation, the fire department would prefer mini circles. They can drive over one with half their vehicles safely and not damage the vehicle, their ladder truck. Police is fine with speed hump or speed table. Our staff here would recommend one speed hump because it matches into the neighborhood as well. None of these would really need any right-of-way acquisitions, just material and our staff time for that. The HOA had provided me with a list of their review after I submitted the 7. And they didn't particularly pick out just one. And so let me just go back here to try to explain something. So on the east side, on the right side, there's sidewalk all the way up to Glencrest. On the west side, the sidewalk goes from 73 to Drew Court. Their HOA was suggesting that we increase the sidewalk, add some sidewalk to the middle there, and put what would be like a speed table, and mark it for pedestrians to cross over. And extending that sidewalk would make it accessible to both sides and for everyone to walk over. Now, extending the sidewalk is not really a speed calming measure, but that would have some connectivity there. They also would like to have the center line marked. So they picked sort of the 2 of some of these suggestions. They had some other ones that aren't specifically related to speed calming. So that could be dealt with another time. They wanted to add some bike lanes in this area. I probably wouldn't recommend that. We don't have bike lanes on 73 or anywhere else in the neighborhood. And the town is actually, the mobility plan is to go towards multi-use paths instead. So that this just doesn't fall under the mobility plan as well. And then another one that they were asking for is for no parking signs, which again can be addressed at a later time. So those are all the presentation that I have, and I wanted to know if you had any questions. And I do know we have a speaker.
Commissioner Kidwell?
If you go back to, that's fine right there. That's Hampton's Crossing to the right.
Yes.
What, you may have gone on with this and I missed it. What are the speed humps? Do we have speed humps or traffic calming devices over there?
Yeah, there are speed humps there.
Could you go back to that slide?
Yep.
Thank you.
There you go. Do you see it?
Thank you. Okay.
There.
Perfect. Thank you.
And then the next road over, that's Knoxwood.
Any other questions? Commissioner Boone?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. What time did you collect the speed data?
So they are put up for 2 full weeks.
So there's 24/7 that you're collecting the speed.
Yep, unless the battery dies, unless a vehicle is parked right in front of it, but yes.
And is there a school bus stop anyplace along that line?
That I do not know.
Would that affect, would that affect the speed if there's a speed stop there? I mean, a bus stop?
Would it, no, because I'm collecting the data and then it's calculated with the 85th percentile. And so they are going over, even if a school bus is going pretty slow.
Well, it's stopping to pick up children, I would think.
I'm sorry?
That's my question. Is there a CMS school bus stop along that?
I don't know that. I'd have to look into that for you.
But that would affect the speed, you think?
What do you mean? I'm sorry.
Okay, you say the speed limit is 32 miles an hour during your,
25 miles an hour.
well, you can pull the slide back that says 32, I believe.
Yeah, the 85th percentile.
So if somebody stops in the street, then, you know, whatever speed they're going when they cross the device is what would be picked up.
Okay, but
And it doesn't discriminate on, we don't know what kind of vehicle crossed. Just when it crosses, it records the speed at that time.
okay, thank you.
Commissioner Partee?
Thank you for that presentation. What is the least expensive alternative out of all the 7 that you presented?
It would be the single speed hump.
The single speed hump?
It would be around $4,000 to $5,000 for one speed hump.
Okay, and to piggyback on Commissioner Boone's question on data collection, what is the time frame as far as days or weeks between the first data collection and the second data collection that you are?
Okay, so the request from them was in November, and we have to have a meeting and we discuss the process. So the first collection was in January of 2023, and then my second collection was in June of 2023.
And the speed limit, there was an uptick at what, one for 30, 32 to 31? What was the uptick in the speed collection between the first and the second?
Oh, they stayed the same.
They stayed the same?
Results
Okay,
stayed the
that's what
same.
all right, thank you very much.
Yeah, and I also check, there's other ways to check that I'm getting accurate data. If one of the results come out and tell me I have 10,000 cars going through this area when I know 10,000 cars don't go through there, then we would redo the study because I'd know I didn't have proper data. And if there's like one of the radars runs out of batteries, then I don't get my full 2 weeks, we would then redo those 2 weeks again.
Well, now that you mentioned it, how many cars
How many cars?
that were read on the data collection?
The first one
On the
was,
road.
the first one in January was 2,213, and the second one was 2,800.
Commissioner Kovacs?
What's the cost of the roundabouts?
The mini circles?
Sorry, mini
Yep.
circles.
Those ones are around $10,000, and I would put one at each intersection. I have a list here. Here we go.
Two.
Now, but for these mini circles, I had shifted it so it also have the chicane. That would increase the price. So for this suggested one, which is this next, for two of these layouts would be around $20,000 to $25,000.
But this is what the fire department would prefer.
Yes. They could drive straight over it and only put maybe, let's say, one side of the truck over it without damaging the bottom of the ladder truck, which is the truck style that they're going forward with.
I only worry because there's so many traffic calming devices down the road. I mean, it is such a long road, and there are so many that adding more seems detrimental, but also the safety of the people that live here is important in both ways. So that's why I asked about the mini circles. Do you have any way to predict how many cars might be added due to the daycare being to the right of that?
The daycare access is not onto this street. It's only onto 20, entrance and exit is off of 73. Stephen would be able to talk more to the TIA that was done for that. I don't know off the top
Do you
of my head.
know by any
Remember those
chance?
numbers?
Anything? It was before my time.
Sorry, can you repeat the question? I just want to make
I'm
sure.
worried if the daycare that's now to the east of that is going to add a little more through traffic.
Yeah, the daycare access, as Laura said, is on 73. So there could be people that drive to and from the neighborhood, or they're all public streets, so they could connect to wherever they want to go. So it's possible.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff at this point? Okay. Planning Board, do you have any questions for staff at this point? Public hearing? No? Okay. Okay. We do have someone who's signed up to speak, and that is Bob Sorush. And my understanding is Mike Russell is giving you or bequeathing your 3 minutes to Bob, correct? That's correct. Great. So if you would like to come up, you have a total of 6 minutes to speak to the town board. And if you will please state your name and address for the record as well.
My name is Bob Sarouche. I live at 10302 Islay Court in Huntersville and in Cambridge Grove. And I may have met some of you a week ago at the candidate meet and greet, and look forward to hearing your responses to our questionnaire. So, as I think you are aware, I'm coming for you today as the chairman of the traffic committee for the Cambridge Grove Homeowners Association, which has 250 homeowners and about 750 registered voters. I do have several years' experience as a police officer. Other members of our traffic committee have experience that directly relates to traffic engineering. And I just want to say, I thought Laura's research was excellent. And I may be a mechanic, but she's a rocket scientist. So as you have a copy of the diagram, which is hand-drawn, you will see what may be a very simplified version of what you've been looking at. So at the bottom of this diagram is Glencrest. Pretty much the center is Cambridge Grove Drive going up to Sam Furr. One person asked, where does the school bus stop? The school bus stops at Glencrest and Cambridge Grove Drive in what you're looking at, the left corner of Cambridge Grove Drive. As you look across this drawing, and I'll get into our recommendations, which are actually noted on here, as you kind of take a step back and look at this, part of what you can see, as you had some questions about the location of the preschool, is where that's going to be, and you can also see the traffic coming from that's not on tonight's agenda. So after we discussed this over a period of months and reviewed it and looked at Laura's data, our recommendations, as actually Laura has mentioned several. So if you look at item A, the new sidewalk, so there is as you look up at Cambridge Grove Drive where it enters into Sam Furr, you can see there is a pre-existing sidewalk on the right or west side of Cambridge Grove Drive, but it only extends to Drew Court. So our recommendation was further add a new sidewalk, item A, that takes you halfway from Drew to Truett, and then add a new speed hump which doubles as a pedestrian crossing. So that is probably a least cost alternative. Certainly one speed up is less expensive than two. And I'll come back to the pedestrian crossing in a minute. So then item C is the skipped yellow center line. A skipped line then would enable cars to drive around a service vehicle that might be parked on the side of Cambridge Grove Drive. Item D is at the time where Cambridge Grove enters into Sam Furr. And Mike Russell and I are here together. Mike, having lived there for 25 years, I've lived there for 10. I have driven down Cambridge Grove Drive over 3,000 times. In day, at night, in rain, in every kind of condition. I have witnessed pedestrians crossing there at Sam Furr. As a matter of fact, just a few days ago, a young man who was completely fixated on his iPhone and didn't even look up to see if there was any traffic coming. So after the preschool opens, there will be increased traffic, and just based on my experience as a police officer, I'm not sure I wouldn't want to cross there. So if that's not going to be, if it gets progressively less safe, then one alternative is to extend the sidewalk that we already talked about and allow pedestrian crossing across that speed hump to provide an alternative way for pedestrians to cross Cambridge Grove Drive. Item E is a white stripe for bike lanes on either side. And I know this may sound strange, but I've seen people riding their bike like in the middle of Cambridge Grove Drive. So maybe a bike lane would help them be a little bit more rational as to where they're riding their bicycle. And finally, no parking signs could be added on both sides. And I've seen parking throughout the last 10 years, throughout my 3,000 times, I've seen various vehicles parked. So if you want to calm Cambridge Grove, we think that these 6 recommendations would help achieve that. They're actually fairly low cost. And if you will turn past the diagram, we summarize all those. You can see each of those. A is sidewalk extension, B is single speed hump, doubling as a pedestrian crossing, C is a skipped yellow center line, D is to remove the current pedestrian crossing at Sam Fur, E is add bike lanes, and D is add no parking signs. And what we ask tonight is we respectfully ask that the Huntersville Town Board of Commissioners adopt a motion instructing the Huntersville Town Manager to instruct the Town Traffic Engineering Department to work with the Cambridge Grove HOA Traffic Committee on both the feasibility and the implementation of recommendations A through F shown above and illustrated on the diagram. How am I doing on time?
10 seconds.
That's our 6 minutes?
Yeah.
That's pretty good, thank you. Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. All right. So, any additional questions at this point? Okay, then, Commissioner
Madam
Boone.
Mayor, I got a question for the town manager. Mr. Roberts, can you have a crosswalk and a traffic calming device all in one? I can't think of any place in town that we do that.
I don't know if we have it in town, but I mean, I'm sure it can be done.
We have, you'll normally see a speed table on Sherwood by the Greenway. That's what he was pretty much explaining, a speed table. So it would be a speed hump, because you have to go up, and then it's going to go flat so that the pedestrians can still walk across it.
Good example, thank you.
All right. Unless there's any other questions, then I'm going to close the public hearing. Okay. All right. Now we're going to go ahead and move to other business, and this is item 10A, and this is consider decision on traffic calming measures for Swansboro Lane. All right, so we're going to continue the conversation.
We're going to continue speed hump conversations. This one's in Swansboro. This one as well. The two studies did not reduce the speeds per the policy. And so our staff would recommend the two speed humps that you're looking on the screen right now. Earlier today, Ms. Camp said that the community would prefer the 3 speed humps. And that's what's on the screen now. They're spaced less than 500 feet, which is what we usually look for.
Okay. Any questions for staff at this point? Is there a motion ready? Commissioner Phillips.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve alternate 2, which is the 3 speed humps for the Swansboro Lane traffic calming solution.
There's a motion and there is a second. Any discussion? Commissioner Kidwell. Tongue-tied.
Sound like I'm getting yelled at by Mom again. Call me every name in the family. With the 3 speed humps, do any of them fall in a driveway or impact anybody's home?
So these are approximate lengths, and our Public Works Department knows to adjust accordingly.
Okay.
So not to put it in front of a driveway.
All right, thank you.
Shift it.
Okay. Any additional questions? Seeing none, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion carries. Alternative 2 with the 3 speed humps has been approved. All right. We are now moving to item 10B, and this is Beatty's Ford Road at Brown Mill Road intersection for NC 73 project. Mr. Trott.
Mayor, I think my understanding is where we're going to continue this project to a later date. October 16th is my understanding.
Is there a motion?
Motion to postpone this till October 16th here at Town Hall, 101 Huntersville Concord Road, 6 p.m.
All right, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, that motion carries.
Actually, no, it's over. Never mind.
Okay. So we will now, we have such a quick meeting tonight. I don't, okay. You're right. I apologize. We're now moving to mayor and commissioner reports. Commissioner Partee.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to recognize the fact that this month is National Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And well, most of you are not aware of it, but I raised money as a pink tie guy for the Susan G. Komen Society this past year, and I raised over $8,000. So I'm very supportive of the breast cancer research that we have for our women. In light of that, I want to also emphasize that CMPD made an arrest for sexual assault that was occurring in that Greenways. And I just want to remind folks from our town to be very alert when you walk in our greenways. And when I say alert, I mean use a buddy system where possible. Stay alert around your surrounding paths where you walk. Carry a cell phone with you and use it as a voice command if you feel unsafe or you feel about to get attacked to dial 911. Single joggers and walkers that are wearing earbuds are easy targets. So just be aware and just, govern yourself accordingly. And as always, let a family member know or friends know whenever you enter the greenways. Now, I'm always an advocate for gun safety. I always will be. And we had a tragedy where a young child was killed recently up in Mooresville. So I just implore everybody to, if they can, safeguard your weapons. Because as you know, serious physical injury and death can occur when children play with guns and they're not aware of how to handle a weapon. And our police department has gun safety. They have locks that they serve for free. And finally, if you have a charity that you want to give to, please do so. They will appreciate it. Thank you, Mayor. That's all I have.
Commissioner Kidwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Commissioner Boone was so kind enough to fill in for me at CRTPO at the last meeting so I could coach my daughter's soccer team. Commissioner Boone, we won 7-1, just so it was not in vain. But while at the meeting, he took some great notes. One thing was there's been a change in the discretionary grants program. The max funding from going forward will be 25% with a 10% cost estimate. And they gave us a nice annual report, and just pointing out two of those things that we received discretionary funding for here in Huntersville was the Stumptown Road Extension at North Carolina 115, $5.156 million came from that. And also the Greenway Tunnel under US 21, which everyone knows I was against, but we still brought home $2.6 million. So over $7 million brought back to this community from CRTPO. Thank you again, Commissioner Boone, for filling in for me and your excellent note-taking.
Thank you. Commissioner Kovacs.
For the Lake Norman Chamber, it could not be a busier time. Coffee Connection is this Thursday at Allen Tate in Huntersville, 8:30 to 10 a.m., followed by the Chamber's Business Expo, October 10th, here at the Huntersville Recreation Center, 11 a.m. until 5 p.m. The event is open to the public and there is no admission. The Chamber will also host Huntersville Candidate Forum here at Town Hall from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. October 17th. It will be moderated by Justin, say it for me, Kasepis, the owner and station manager of WSIC. So that first forum will be October 7th, and it'll preview the 3 candidates for mayor and 5 commissioner candidates, with the remaining balance of commissioner candidates on Thursday, October 19th. Both forums will be live streamed on the station website, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And the annual Public Safety Luncheon is Thursday, October 19th, 11:45 at North Stone Country Club, honoring our outstanding police, fire, and crime stopper of the year. Visit the Chamber website for more events and to sign up. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Boone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have 2 items, and it probably dovetails with what Jeff Snide said earlier about the campaign. At the end of the campaign, there's going to be an awful lot of campaign signs out there. As a candidate, you have 7 days to pick up all those signs. As we did two years ago, Troop 19, the Boy Scouts of America have offered to pick up everybody's sign, bring them to Town Hall that Sunday about 4 o'clock, and you'll make a donation, and the majority of the candidates have agreed to this. You'll make a donation of $1 per sign. 2 things will come out of this. The town will get cleaned up in a hurry, and the Boy Scouts will have a great fundraiser. So I hope everybody can participate in that, and we'll get these corners, Jeff, around town cleaned up. And finally, tomorrow night is probably one of the biggest nights for the police department in town. It's National Night Out. It's at the Rec Center. More information's on the town website. It's a great family outing, and thank you, Chief, for putting that together. Thank you. That's my
Commissioner
report.
Phillips.
For Visit Lake Norman, this October the 5th, we have something really cool for Lake Norman. PBS NC Weekend will be airing at 9 p.m. an episode featuring a lot of places in Lake Norman, including some really good spots in Huntersville, like Burkdale Village, the Hugh Torrance House and Store, Quest, Belada Nature Preserve, and historic Rural Hill, among other places in Cornelius and Davidson. So thank you to Visit Lake Norman for putting us on the map like that. It is a really big feature, and it's the 21st season. We're the first episode of the 21st season, and we are the whole episode, not just a snippet. So it's monumental for our little area.
That's great. That is absolutely great. I don't have much of a report other than to share with you. You may have seen that the 6 towns in the county for MTC or for CATS has hired an attorney to represent our interests as we go to update the bylaws to the interlocal agreement that we have in the region. That was originally established in 1998, and we're now going to go back and revisit it. It is the deadline, or it expires rather, June 30th of 2024. So we are going to be working with the City of Charlotte to revamp that interlocal agreement and work to make sure that we're providing all the residents in Mecklenburg County some quality public transportation. So that, I believe, is all that I have, other than to say to staff, and I know many who are not here this evening, specifically Parks and Rec. The 150th celebration was amazing out at Huntersville Athletic Park. I believe we had more than 6,000 people out there this evening. Does that sound about right, Ethan? Yep. The fireworks were incredible. The music was amazing. The rides, watching the kids play. It was a great day to be in Huntersville. And I look forward to the next event, which would be Christmas in Huntersville, when we bury that time capsule. So to the 150th committee, well done. That just well done. Well done. You know, and honestly, I think that let's just end the meeting on a high note, because it was just a beautiful event. The rain stayed away for the most part, and it was just a great day to be in Huntersville. So, is there a motion? Motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Second. Second. All right, all those in favor? Good night, Huntersville.